Hookup culture, with the help of social media, has single-handedly destroyed traditional relationships and courting seemingly forever, and now dating is BS. Gone are the days when a man could meet a pure woman who has never been defiled, and he could get a wife that would have been more likely to remain faithful. Unfortunately, those days are gone, and what we're left with is women being massive 304s all competing against each other for the top-tier guy in real life or online. That's a brief overview of the hookup culture's aftermath that is still going on today. However, more and more women by the day are transitioning to pay-for-play type relationships instead of giving away their wet vice grip for free like they used to at the peak of hookup culture. But the real question is, who benefited from hookup culture? Because if it weren't beneficial, millions of people would not partake in it for over a decade. Well, that's not an easy question to answer because the normie response would be men. You know they love to blame men for everything even though we don't have any control over sex. Most men basically take what they can get. But there is some truth to that. However, we can only be certain by looking at the negative effects of said hookup culture and then looking at who has benefited the most. Then we can assume which gender benefited the most and who is using who. Let's look at the men's side for a moment to see what are the adverse effects. We already know the immediate positive impact of hookup culture, which was more sex, but with every good comes bad, so we have to see if hookup culture negatively affects men. We know that hookup culture created more incels and virgins on the men's side because women became more selective of who they wanted to sleep with, which were typically Chad, Tyrone, and top-tier men. There was a record amount of single and lonely men because many men could not secure a mate. Men lost their families. Men became disgusted by women's behavior and the fact that it was getting harder and harder to get one woman, so many men decided to go their own way or stop dating completely. Divorce also skyrocketed along with a decline in marriages because married women wanted to join in on the fun at their family's expense. And they were being told by the womanism movement that being a 304 was empowering and it's best to delay getting married and instead have fun. So many men could not get women that were ready to settle down and start a family. And a lot of men wasted their time and money dating women only to get used and ghosted for a free meal or out of boredom, which led to more frustrated men who either gave up on dating or are still trying today and failing if they didn't rescue a 304. Those are the main problems men face because of hookup culture. Many men got used and abused by women, cheated on by their spouse or girlfriend, and overall unable to secure a mate. Now, if you look at the women's side, it's similar, but a lot of things are different. Many women got pregnant and either deleted their child, became single mothers, or gave their partner a jacket baby. So there was a rise in single motherhood, a rise in giving men another man's seed, and a rise in early termination. Less women started to get married, and more women divorced their husbands so they couldn't have fun on the CC and see if they could level up on their husbands. There was a rise in women dying alone and leftover women, with the help of womanism pushing hookup culture and careers. More women developed mental health issues, more women entered poverty, and only a small percentage of men were getting to have sex with the majority of women compared to the overall population of men. The virginity rate in women plummeted while cheating skyrocketed. We saw a rise in unhappy women, pet moms, childless, and single women. There was a rise in STDs among women. I mean, do I need to go any further? It's obvious the hookup culture benefited a small percentage of men and destroyed the lives of married men and women in general. Most women did not benefit long-term from hookup culture, and we're seeing the effects today with the amount of single older women and mentally ill XXs in society. Not to mention the itchy scratchy betwixt their legs, it is quite obvious that it destroyed modern women. Men got annihilated, but women, most of them will never recover, and it is what it is. I feel nothing for any of these women who participated in hookup culture. They knew what they were doing, and they benefited upfront, but on the back end it's brutal for them, and rightfully so. I'm glad that they get to live out the consequences of their decision. And with the prediction that 45% of them will be single and childless by 2030, it puts a smile on my face to know men will get their revenge for all the BS they put us through. So it's obvious that women sabotaged and wrecked their lives by allowing the birth of hookup culture. Just remember that women control access to sex. If they weren't dishing it out like pancakes, there would have never been a hookup culture to begin with, and that's the truth. So it's all their fault, and they need to be held accountable by men, not rescuing any of them from dying alone. With that said, I found an article by the University News highlighting some of the problems with hookup culture, so let's check it out. The title of the article is An Honest Conversation About Hookup Culture. Tap the like button for me and get this video to 500 likes. Alright, let's dive into it. In recent years, casual sexual encounters, also known as hookup culture, have gained vast popularity in the United States. With the sudden emergence of this new cultural trend, one demographic appeared to be implementing it most: college students. Recent data shows that between 60% and 80% of North American college students have experienced a hookup in some capacity. An article written by Justin Garcia and colleagues aimed to explain why college students were the most accepting of this phenomenon. The results concluded that the reason young adults resort to hookup culture is because the average ages of marriage and reproduction have been dramatically pushed back, while the age of puberty dropped. This creates an awkward gap in which young adults are physiologically able to reproduce, but are not mature enough to settle down and start a family. Subsequently, this presents an opportunity for people to engage in sexual acts for their sole benefit, often without a desire or expectation of a romantic relationship. Additionally, the easy accessibility of dating apps plays a significant role in the popularization of hookup culture. Platforms such as Tinder or Bumble grant almost instant access to potential sexual partners by being free of charge and readily available to users. Gents, so far, they are hitting some good points. We know that if it wasn't for online dating and social media, women could not reach as many men as they could, and they couldn't dish out the wet vice script to so many men. Also, with womanism pushing them to be sexually liberated, delaying starting a family and focusing on their careers was necessary for the birth of hookup culture. Without those key ingredients, the scale of hookup culture would not be what it was. At best, a woman could only have sex with the men in her community or town. But with online dating and social media, women could reach men worldwide. And that's all they needed to wreck their lives, families' lives, and the wider society. And when you throw birth control and the ability to terminate a quote-unquote mistake, that was what made hookup culture possible. Let's continue. One may start to wonder what the moral implications of this new cultural shift are. Does the societal acceptance of hookup culture represent an era of destigmatizing uncommitted sex, or does it normalize taking advantage of others in the pursuit of sexual intimacy? Moreover, is it even possible for one to set healthy boundaries during an encounter that is meant to be no strings attached? Tulane University's Lisa Wade, Ph.D., argues that hookup culture is destroying people's ideas and perceptions of emotionally fulfilling sex, healthy expectations, and boundary setting. Upon conducting multiple surveys and writing a novel on the topic, Wade found that approximately one-third of the students she surveyed reported their casual sexual relationships being traumatic or very difficult to handle. Most participants reported their encounters to be very disappointing, while 1 in 10 reported having been sexually coerced or assaulted by their sexual partner in the past year. Her study concluded that only about a quarter of students thrive in hookup culture, at least at first. I can bet those who were mainly negatively affected were women, not men. Those who had traumatic experiences were women and not men. And she seems to forget that women are the ones with the padlock and key to hookup culture and casual sex, not men. Without women giving men consent to ran through them, casual sex and hookup culture would disappear overnight. But of course, they won't admit that because that would put the accountability on women. As I said in the beginning, most men are just taking what they can get, so I can't blame the men because for consensual sex to happen, women have to be the ones to agree to make it happen. So blame XXs for hookup culture. It's not men's fault. Don't come with the "it takes two to tango" BS. As you can see, as a result of hookup culture are incels and virgins who cannot get a piece of peace sleeve to save their lives. Those men have no impact on hookup culture because they've been barred from participating. Women are the ones that caused hookup culture. End of the story. Let's continue. Notably, my research suggests that hookup culture is a problem not because it promotes casual sex, but because it makes a destructive form of casual sexual engagement feel compulsory. Students who don't hook up can end up being socially isolated, while students who do engage in this way are forced to operate by a dysfunctional set of rules. Hookup culture encourages a punishing emotional landscape where caring for others or even simple courtesy seem inappropriate, while carelessness and even cruelty are allowed, she quotes. Aside from emphasizing that hookup culture is unnatural to our primal instinct of caring for others, Wade shines light on the fact that today's young people are more permissive, disclosing, and more willing to accept new and diverse principles than any generation before. She highlights that this phenomenon is reflected in the rather abrupt normalization, especially within the demographic. Her proposed solution is for institutions to take action by offering substantial resources and creating a narrative shift which will promote casual sexual encounters being built on the ethic of care and boundaries and not on benefiting at the expense of others. Gents, I'm so close to hitting 1,000 subscribers on my anime channel. We only need 15 more of you guys to go and subscribe. So I'll link the channel in the description and pinned in the comment section so you guys can show me some support and subscribe to achieve our goal of 1,000 subscribers before December. I appreciate all of you guys. Gents, all she has is a pipe dream which will never happen. As we speak, hookup culture is transitioning into its final forms, which are open relationships and women selling their souls over on the Soul Society. They realize that instead of giving away free sex, they could get compensated by men of means, so women are being more selective with how they conduct themselves. Many of them choose to engage in hookup culture, have a sugar daddy on the side, or be a concubine. Then the next forms that hookup culture is transitioning to are open or ethically non-monogamous relationships. These women get to have their cake and eat it too by having a long-term partner and engaging in hookup culture simultaneously. That is where we are transitioning to right now, and you will see it happening more and more as time passes. Let's continue. Colleges also need to change the institutional arrangements that give too much power to subsets of students who are most enthusiastic about hookup culture and who benefit from it at the expense of their peers. Explaining that in a historical and modern context, the organizations responsible for this have been fraternities and sororities. Doing this may mean disbanding their fraternities and sororities. Regardless of its nature, an essential component of any healthy dynamic is emotional maturity and willingness to have open and honest conversations. While sex means different things to different people, many find that their sexuality represents a raw and vulnerable aspect of their lives. Despite its fluidity, years of research on sex and hookups have taught us the necessity of respecting others and enforcing boundaries. Because the moment the dynamic shifts into something that is a power trip or using another person for what they are offering, the situation can quickly turn into a slippery slope of cruelty and abuse. The bottom line is not to engage in situations one feels hold the potential to be a toxic or disappointing experience for themselves or another person. If one chooses to pursue casual sex, it is important to be mindful of the intentions leading up to the decision and not engage in the act with ulterior motives. Because sexual intimacy holds the potential to be the most empowering or destructive experience one can engage in, it is critical that we remain aware of how our actions impact ourselves and others, internalizing the importance of always treating others with respect and enforcing boundaries. With these positive qualities prioritized, casual sex can very well prove to be an emotionally fulfilling, safe, and positive experience for those involved. I commend them for trying to get things back under control, but it's too late for that. Men, these young girls that should be your future wives have been tainted and are not wife material. And I'm talking about most Gen Z and millennials are done. It's pretty much a lost cause if you want a wife out of either of the two generations. So my advice is to save yourself and lease, don't buy. Nothing more needs to be said. If you still decide to get a wife in either of the two generations, then accept any BS that comes with your decision and move on with life. You can't complain, you can't seek sympathy, and you can't go to content creators seeking help. You can't say I didn't warn you. On the screen is our Season 9 RP content that I know you will enjoy, so click the video on the screen right now to get one of the best edutainment RP content on the platform.